Hello and welcome to another motorcycling video. It's Monday the 23rd of March 2026 when I'm making this video, and I've just finished my morning run, and so I'm riding home, and I'm going to talk to you in this video about some issues to do with mental health. And so before I do that, I want to be clear, I'm not offering any professional advice about mental health. I'm not qualified to do that, and if I was, I wouldn't offer advice in a forum like this. I'm not suggesting to anybody that the things that I'm going to talk about are a solution for proper professional care if you need it. They are just some thoughts about mental health and maybe some ideas that you might at least give a thought to. If you are at the moment using a professional service for mental health of some sort, continue to use that. If you are taking a medication, continue to take that medication unless you are advised otherwise by a medical professional. These are just some thoughts about mental health in general and how it might relate to motorcycling. I'm going to specifically for the moment talk about the Black Dog ride, and I'm prompted to do this because last night when I was trawling through YouTube videos and watching them, I came across one from the old mate at Old Not Dead channel, and he was talking about the Black Dog ride that he'd been on recently, so I thought I would talk about it. It reminded me that I hadn't been on the Black Dog ride this year for circumstances beyond my control, but that I think it is a good idea and it's a worthy cause. So the Black Dog ride is a motorcycle ride, a one-day ride that's organised by various motorcycle groups throughout the country, and what happens is people will gather at an agreed meeting point. It's not a kicking tyres and looking at motorcycles and chewing the fat and telling war stories and so on, and then somebody gives a briefing about the route that the ride is going to take and some of the rules and etiquette that everyone should follow, and then you set off on the ride. There is a fee for entering, which I think might be $35 now. I don't want to be quoted, but I think it might be $35 for a single rider, and if you have a pillion, it might be another $10 for the pillion. And all the money raised goes to the Black Dog Institute. The Black Dog Institute is a body that does research into causes of depression and also looking at causes of suicide and trying to reduce the rate of suicide among young men in particular. And I think that's a very worthy cause. Now, I've done two of the Black Dog rides. I want to tell you why it's called the Black Dog ride first of all, and then about the Black Dog, and then I'll tell you about the rides that I've been on. It's called the Black Dog. It depends on which bit of folklore you believe, for two different reasons. One reason suggests that the fellow who started the Black Dog rides, whose name I can't remember, he had a black dog that used to sit on the back of his motorcycle as he rode around various places talking about issues to do with suicide and mental health and things like that, and his dog was called Winston. So that's one version of the story. The second version of the story is that Winston Churchill, the wartime Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, he is credited with being the first person to use the black dog expression to define depression. He suffered from depression all his life, and when his depression was at its worst, he referred to it as seeing the black dog. And so the mascot for the Black Dog ride is a dog called Winston, possibly after the owner of the dog or possibly after Winston Churchill. So I've been on two Black Dog rides. The first one I went on was, I think, in 2021, or maybe in 2020, but certainly around that time, and I was in Tasmania at the time. And what happened is that everybody who was going to participate in the ride from the north rode to a town called Campbelltown, which is on the Midland Highway going south about 90 kilometres, I think, from Launceston. We met at the local sports ground. You can register beforehand online and give your name and details, and I think they take the registration of your motorcycle, and you might have to provide a next of kin and an emergency contact number. When you get there, there's a place where you get your name marked off and you get a patch and a few other bits and stickers and stuff like that. Then everybody sort of walks around, looks at each other's bikes and renews acquaintances and so on. And at some point, the person who was in charge of the event gave us all a bit of a briefing about where the ride was going to go. A local police officer came and blocked off the traffic so everybody could get out of the sports field. We rode probably about half a k out of, maybe not even that far, out of Campbelltown. And then we took a left turn and rode down the Leake, spelled Leake, highway. to Bicheno, which is on the east coast, a beautiful seaside town on the east coast, where there was a again, everybody parked up, stands were down, people were walking around looking at each other's bikes and renewing acquaintances and telling stories and so forth. And there was a sausage sizzle. Other people went to various pubs, cafes and such like and had lunch, and then eventually people sort of dispersed and went on their way home. My recollection is I rode up the coast, maybe to St Helens, and then through Scottsdale and so forth back to Launceston. In 2023, I did the Black Dog Ride in Ballarat. I went down to Victoria to stay with my son who lives in Bacchus Marsh, and we rode from his house in Bacchus Marsh into Ballarat. Bacchus Marsh is west of Melbourne for those who don't know, and Ballarat's further west than that. And we met up at the North Ballarat Football Club car park, where again people sort of sat around and looked at each other's bikes and asked questions about various bikes and so on. And then at one point there was a briefing by the person who was in charge of the event, and we all set off, and there were various points where motorcyclists blocked off the intersection so that all the riders could get through without being interrupted, without big cars interrupting them and so on. My recollection is that we went through Daylesford and Crestwick, but I can't remember all the other places we went to, and then we came to a large recreation ground, which might have been a football field. Again, there was a barbecue and drinks and coffee and so forth, and merchandise, caps, hoodies, all that sort of stuff. So people sat around and told stories and renewed acquaintances and bought merchandise and so on, and then eventually dispersed to wherever it was they needed to go home to. So my son and I jumped on our bikes again and headed off to Bacchus Marsh. In both cases, it was a great day's riding, and it was well organised. I didn't have any issues with riding with anyone else. I'm generally happy to ride at the back of the pack. I don't know where I'm going, so I follow someone else. I don't want to be at the front of the pack and leading other people because I don't know where I'm going. And I don't necessarily want to be in the middle of the pack because you don't really know what other people are going to do. So I'm happy to be at the back. And it was a great day's riding, and as I said, I think it's a good cause and it's one that's well worth supporting. So this year's event was held on the 15th of March, which was a weekend, not the weekend gone, but the one before that. And I had family visiting, and my son was having his 40th birthday, so I couldn't very well just go off and take myself for a ride for the day. The nearest one to Goulburn starts in Canberra, I think. So, you could ride over to Canberra and meet up with the people there, or perhaps I believe they ride to Braidwood, so perhaps you could meet them at the intersection of the Tarago Road and the Kings Highway, and then ride into Braidwood with them, or something like that. There are other rides all over various parts of New South Wales and other states, and if you Google the Black Dog one-day ride, you might find some information about and photographs of the events at various places, or maybe even they're starting the planning for next year at this stage. Now, moving beyond that, motorcycling in general can, in some instances, be a therapeutic sort of thing to do. Again, I'm carefully not offering medical advice or mental health advice, and I'm not advising anyone who's been taking medication or under any professional help to abandon all that and taking up motorcycle riding. But what I'm saying here is this: you might be at a point on some days or on a given day where you think the world's pretty black and you're really down in the dumps and things are just everything just seems to be weighing heavily on you. It could be helpful for you then to just throw your leg over your bike and set off for a ride for an hour or so. It's not necessarily going to solve any of those problems that you're facing, but it means that perhaps for that hour or so that you are out on the road just enjoying the wind in your hair and the wind in your face and all the things that we love about motorcycling, it could be that at least those problems are left behind at home where you set off from. They're still going to be there when you get back, but for at least for an hour or so, or however long that you go out riding, you may be able to just leave those problems behind, or perhaps if you're out there, put them into perspective and really ask yourself, are things as bad as I think they are? Is it the end of the world, or is this just a minor thing that I can overcome? Sometimes you're going to be facing big issues, and people are facing big issues, and sometimes things that we think are catastrophic and are the end of the world, when we maybe go out and clear our head, and whether that's walking or riding or running or doing something else, including motorcycling, you may be able to put them into a different perspective. Now, it depends on whether you're riding by yourself or whether you're riding with someone else. Sometimes just riding by yourself and thinking, I don't have to worry about what other people are doing. I can go where I want to go when I want to go. I can stop when I want to stop and get a drink and a sandwich or whatever it is I want to do, and I can come back when I want to come back. Other times it might be beneficial to ride with other people and say, well, we'll go a certain distance, then we'll stop and we'll have lunch and we'll sit around the table and we'll all talk and tell some stories, and maybe I'll be able to talk about this thing that's the problem at the moment, and maybe other people listening to it can give me some suggestions of how I might deal with it, or at least help me to put into perspective. So it will depend on the circumstance and depend on the people that you ride with. If they're people that you don't know, obviously you're not going to want to open up and tell them your most intimate secrets and your most deeply troubling things. But if they're people that you regularly ride with or do know on a regular, from other social situations besides motorcycling, you may find it beneficial to take a ride with them and share whatever your problem is with you and share the issue with them. And it may help. It may put the issue in perspective, and it may help you to see it as not being perhaps as serious as you initially thought it was. There's a general feeling, though, that men in particular are not very good at doing that kind of thing, and not very good at opening up about those sort of issues, and not very good at looking after their mental health. And that may be so, but I also think that situation is changing. What leads me to think that is that there are lots of groups, it seems to me now, where men have the opportunity, if they need it and if they want it, to be able to go out and to share their problem or share their situation and talk their problem through with other people who may be in a similar situation, or who may be just there ready to listen and maybe make a few suggestions, or maybe even just talking it out helps you to put in perspective. One of those groups that exists in Goulburn that I'm aware of is the men's walking group. It reads, I think, one morning a week and one afternoon a week. I'm pretty sure they have a Facebook group, and if you Google them or search for them through Facebook, the Goulburn Men's Walking Group, they meet at Marsden Weir one morning a week, I think about 6 o'clock in the morning, and they walk from Marsden Weir to the Victoria Street Bridge and back again, and they say that's about 4 k's, and then they possibly go to one of the cafes nearby for a coffee and a chat, some more chatting while they're walking. And they just get together as a group of them. It's a very informal thing. If you're there, you're there. If you're not there, you're not there. And it's entirely up to the individuals who go, what it is they talk about and who they talk to and what they talk about. There is a similar group, which I don't know that it operates in Gold, but I've certainly seen it advertised as operating in other places, including in the Southern Highlands, and that is called the Men's Table. And it's a similar idea in that a group of men meet on a regular basis, sometimes I think once a month or something like that, and they just meet at a restaurant, have some dinner, sit around and talk about whatever it is that they feel like talking about, and everybody's as open as they want to be and sharing as they want to be, and nobody's offering professional help and nobody's offering medical suggestions or mental health therapies or anything. They're just there to listen and to talk and to encourage people to share a problem and talk about whatever the issues are that may be concerning people. So again, if you Google the Men's Table, you may find there's a group like that operating in your area. If any of the things that I've said today have caused you any sort of concern, in Australia there are a number of services, including Lifeline, that you can find by Googling, and they have 1300 numbers or 13 numbers that you can call and talk to someone in an emergency. If something is really stressing you out and you need help immediately, there are a number of those services. Otherwise, as I said at the beginning, if you're not at the moment getting medical help and you feel as if you need it, then I suggest to you and I encourage you to go and do that. Thanks for listening. If you have a comment, put it in the appropriate place, and when I'm aware of it, I'll respond to it. Ride safely, have a good day, and enjoy whatever motorcycling you're doing. Thanks for watching.